some sort of inspection scheme he's part of, or regulatory bodies. He may have to provide that information for ecological purposes or what have you. So he's got to deal with a lot of data flowing in and out from a lot of different sources. And if they don't speak to each other, that becomes a huge time sink. We're sat in the office manually entering things into computer systems to then generate paper outputs which we can then send off to people. And how this situation develops, we've all seen it. You can talk about AC chargers, and you can talk about, if you go back long enough, video cassette recorders, between Betamax and VHS. But this is the situation. I love this little cartoon. So we've got 14 competing standards, and everybody agrees this is crazy. We don't need 14. Why don't we just have one that we can all agree on, and we can all use that, and that'll be one standard. Great, we'll all agree on that then. Soon, you've now got 15 competing standards, because that new one, we'll all adopt that, but in the meantime, we've got a lot of historic product and people are still making to the old one. So you soon end up, and this is how you end up with all these different standards, and then nothing talks. One way we've got around this, which has been going for a long time, and you probably maybe got some bits on your own farms at this, is Isobus. What happened here was a lot of the agricultural manufacturers got together and did agree that we need to do something about it. They formed a thing called the Agricultural Electronics Foundation, and they all agreed that we would work to a common bus for data transfer between agricultural machines. It was then ratified by the ISO, the International Organisation for Standardisation, so it was a defined standard. So anyone who wanted to could join that and then write software that would work to that agreed standard, and then it should work. We use an industry standard socket and cable, and the idea is that you should be able to buy an Isobus machine and plug it into whichever Isobus equipped tractor you've got, and they should work. I stress should. It's a start. We also have a thing called the ISO XML Universal Task Data File. Now this is what we're trying to work with with the AGCO products, certainly, and going forward this is what we'll move to, away from, say, the more old-fashioned shape files. But this is universal, except it's not, because a universal task file can encompass anything in that blue box. It can be in an ISO XML file. But the actual ISO task data within that file might only be those top 4. And then you can have some proprietary, i.e. manufacturer-specific bits in that file as well. And they could depend between machines. If you've got a combine, it might well be a crop temperature and a yield sensor. But that's not a lot of good if you're going to put that into a tractor or you're going to put it into a sprayer. So even with a standardised format, there are still issues. One place where we use Isobus is in the variable rate control. So the idea is the rate's generated, sent across the internet to the tractor. The tractor then, in combination with its GPS coordinates, can talk to the sprayer and tell, or the spreader, or the drill, and then tell it how much product it's got to put on in these basic areas. But this all relies upon us all talking in the same language. Just a quick map there, just to show you what you'd actually see on the terminal of an Isobus machine. As you can see, the Isobus machine is on the top left, and the map is in the bottom right. So this is a good example of where we can actually make stuff fit. How we get that there, we use something called TaskPro. So you create the maps in your farm office and you send them across the internet. So the task is created in the farm office, sent to the server, comes across the internet to the tractor, coordinated with the GPS so it knows where it is. That information is then used, and then what has been done is sent back to the farm office. So it is a continual flow of data. All working on the ISO XML format, so again, should be interoperable with farm management software as long as they can use that. But this interoperability or lack thereof, and this just a little bit of a diagram that just shows you some of the problems that we're encountering. If I'm going to talk to you this afternoon, we've agreed that you're all going to sit there at 2:30 and you're going to be listening for me talking to you until 3 o'clock, and I'm going to use the English language largely. And we're going to use whatever technical terms we're going to use, and we're going to use a PowerPoint presentation. And we've had to agree that. And that's one agreement. If I then want to speak to somebody else, I might have to have a different agreement, and we might have to agree that I'm not going to use PowerPoint, I'm going to use something else to display it, I'm going to use flashcards, and we're going to speak in German. And then he's going to tell me something in German via flashcards, and I'm going to have to translate that into English and tell you guys via PowerPoint. And all this creates barriers. And for each individual part of that circle, we need individual agreements, and this is where it falls over, because somebody somewhere, we've written a new app, but we don't want to work with that, so then it falls over. Or we've launched a new machine, and it doesn't work with your app anymore, so that falls over. So it all becomes very difficult. So one of the things I think we're going to move to, I'm hoping we're going to move to in the future, is a thing called the Agraroute. Now the Agraroute is a partnership, a little bit like the AEF, the Agricultural Electronics Foundation, that was set up for Isobus. The idea is with this, it's a data hub. So everybody, you can see the current partners we've got in there already. So Agco are in there, Samuel Farr, CNH, Muddy Boots, and lots of spray manufacturers, machinery manufacturers as well, and many, many others have clubbed together, and they're funding this, so it's free for the farmer. And the idea is that each of those manufacturers, advisors, software companies, only have to write one protocol, and that's to talk to Agraroute. So if you can put your data into the Agraroute, you've only got to do that. And then we can get it out from Agraroute, or somebody else can take it out from Agraroute in that format and transform it into their own format. Send it back to Agraroute and it comes out as what you want. So this is where we said before about your agronomist does you a precision farming map and he sends it to you from Muddy Boots. You can send it through Agraroute, it can come into your farm management software, for argument's sake, Gatekeeper, and then it can go out again and it can go to 2 or 3 different machines of different manufacturers, all of which pop in through there. Free to use for the farmer. Agricultural manufacturers and software guys and advisors only have to write to one standard, and the data goes in and out to your choosing. So you set up how you want your data to be handled. So nothing is stored, it goes in and it comes out. And you can say, only my agronomist has access to this, or only on this particular data my agronomist doesn't see, my operators do. We need some more manufacturers to get on board. Largely, if we could get Deere and we could get Class on board, that would then, I think Gatekeeper are looking at it as well, all of a sudden we get critical mass and it will start to become something that we can actually use, and it will then really help to make it easier for you guys. So, just to wrap up then, looking at what we're thinking of doing in the future, and what we're doing differently, P&B, because of the way technology is going and how it's expanding all the time. We're doing things a bit different. So you've got now a specialist, or we've got a specialist, which is me, looking at all things technological. So that's quite a big brief, but things in there are things like the RTK network. So we've got the new network to promote, as you can see. We've been doing that, and we're now selling that as a standalone service. If you haven't got your machine from us, but we can supply your signal for you, then we'll happily do that. Also, as an in-house advisor to the sales team and the customers, on all sorts of things, from guidance and machine management to machine functions and connectivity, data transfer and management, farm management integration software, making sure it works with what you've got on the farm. And also liaising with the suppliers, all of these things. And the whole point is that the salesman's a busy guy. He needs one point of contact. If I need then to go to industry and say, how do we make this talk to this, I can then handle that and come back to him with a solution or a range of solutions that will hopefully help with what we're trying to do. The other thing is the training and events side of it. So we've done several events recently, several training events. We did one with Kuhn back early last year. We've done some Fendt guidance training and some Massey Ferguson guidance training very recently, because if the customer's buying these machines, it's imperative that the operator can get the best out of them now. It's no longer a case of there's the keys, on you go. You've got systems on these tractors that are now needing to be trained on and installed on the operators. And also, to look at this data, as we've just spoken about briefly, we did a bit of a data evening just to say, how do farmers, you're generating all this data, you've probably got some sort of farm management software package, how are you using that, and actually, what's useful to you? What are your actually endpoints looking to be? You can gain gigabytes and gigabytes of data, but actually is it useful to you? And also, to assist the service team with issues, if we do get intractable problems, which occasionally we can, to help those guys to actually resolve that so we can get a speedy fix for the customer and get them working again. So looking at the future then, well, if you could tell that, I wouldn't be stood here, I'd be in the bookies putting some money on the 315 somewhere and pocketing it. But going forward, data management and farm management software integration, that's going to be a much bigger and bigger thing. As margins get tighter, as we get support payments get changed from what we're doing currently into more and more environmental-based schemes potentially, you're probably going to have to provide evidence of what you're doing and where stuff's gone, and you can't just say, well, we got rid of about 2 tonne of fertiliser in that field. You want to show where it's gone, you're going to need something. That may not necessarily be a top-end system like Gatekeeper, but there's going to be simpler and more straightforward systems available, lower functions, but probably do what you need to do. So making that work, that's going to be a bigger part of customers going forward. And there will be questions now, well, if I buy your fertiliser spreader and I want to put it on the back of your tractor, will it talk to this? And will my agronomists be able to send stuff to it? And that's going to be a buying decision now. It won't be just, I want that spreader and I want that tractor. It'll be, will it talk to what I've got and what will it do going forward? So that's going to be a huge thing. Telemetry, that's going to be standard on every new Fendt this year. It's going to become standard soon on Massey and Valtra tractors as well. It's already standard on every JCB we do. And it's going to be a bigger and bigger thing going forward. People are going to want that data. They're going to want to know what they're doing, when they're doing it, and how it's working. Machine management. Now, there's a quick thing on here. I mean, we could talk half an hour about this, but there's an ISOBUS standard that's agreed, tractor implement management. You'll see more and more of this. But this is where the implement can actually manage aspects of the tractor. So you can things like balers and other harvesting machines that can actually tell the tractor, how fast we want to drive in these crop conditions to get optimum output, so optimum quality of work. And I need oil now from this service to do this job, so that the implement can actually start to control the tractor rather than the other way around. So we've been used to it for years on combine harvesters with cruise control systems that are linked to the threshing or what have you, that will actually drive your combine at the optimum speed for the output and the losses. We'll be able to do that now with tractors and other machines, and that's an agreed standard, and people are building machines for that now. Machine-to-machine communications. We're already seeing that with the Ideal Combine. You can have 2 Ideal Combines in the same field, and you can have an iPad as the farm manager walking behind them and saying, oh, fan speed up a bit, concave down a bit, or, you know, we'll do this. And those settings can then be sent to both machines. So you're going to see more and more of that, or you can have a master and a slave machine. So a very skilled operator driving one, he's doing the setup, and the guy on the other one who's really just monitoring the system, because he's not as skilled, it's his first season, all the settings come straight into his machine from the master one. That's here now, and that's going to become more and more of a thing, machine to machine. And things like wayline sync. So the idea that a gang of guys can go into a field to ridge up for some potatoes, one guy puts the waylines in, all those waylines transferred across the fleet, everyone's working on the same waylines, everyone's following that, rather than having to go back to the farm, back again on the memory stick or across the internet. It'll just go between machines and machines. Automation. I mean, we've been playing around with this, and a lot of other people have for a long time. I mean, Guide Connect, Fendt Guide Connect, was out years ago. Saw that working in Germany, and if you can see, it's a very small picture, apologies, but only that front tractor has a driver, the one behind it doesn't. It's just following based on the guidance of where the first tractor goes, and as it performs various manoeuvres, it'll follow it. If he stops, the second one will stop. That's here now, and it's not very expensive. We can do it quite easily. What's holding it up is regulating it, because if that second one goes rogue, how exactly do you stop it? And it's not like a robot swarm. If you've got a little robot the size of a vacuum cleaner, if it goes rogue and bangs its head off the ditch, it's not going to do a lot of damage. One of those things goes rogue, it's going to cause some problems. And in a congested island such as we've got, it's how you make those fail-safe. But those systems are there. We've seen the hands-free hectare. Most of you will have seen that if you've been to anywhere or you've been watching that, Farmers Weekly, etc. Those guys are farming that land without any people being on it. So automation is coming, make no mistake, and it will be there. I mean, and robots, you know, who knows? They're coming, aren't they? They're being used now in greenhouses, and there will be more of a thing. We may be encouraged to come away from big heavy machines and ripping up land to repair the damage caused by big heavy machines and move to many more smaller item machines. Who knows, if you could foresee the future. But that is a huge amount of ground covered in a very short space of time. And we've just gone 3 minutes over, so I do apologise for that. But thank you very much for your attention. And if we've got time for any questions? None at all.
Thank you very much.
There you go. I've flattered you in the submission.